So many of these sort of companies out there that are trying to transform or innovate, really, I don't know if they really are, because the work I'm asking people to do is get outside their comfort zone, to be vulnerable, to do things they've never done before, with unguaranteed results. That, like, going through the process of figuring out if this product is going to work or not is actually, you're building the muscle to actually understand what products work and what don't and move on to the good ideas. Some companies want guaranteed results. No, we have an idea, we want you to execute it, deliver it on a certain day, and we want to make sure that it's a resounding success in the market. We want to innovate, and yeah, we want to try new things, but make sure everything happens exactly as it is defined in this plan over the next 3 years and delivered on this date. People like that don't work well with me. They struggle. They struggle to sort of get outside their comfort zone. They struggle to do things they've never done before. They struggle to take risks. And that's not the kind of work I want to do, and it's not the right people for me to work with. What I'm in the business of is outcomes, changes in behavior, teaching people how to build new products. And that means you're not going to know the answer. You're actually going to figure out the answer by taking steps into uncertainty, small steps, figuring out what works, what doesn't, learning from your customers what they like, what they don't. And a great product emerges from going through that process. And often it's not the product you think you were going to create at the start. Exec Camp is one of the products that I have, right? It's a multi-week program where I get executives to leave their business with the goal of launching new businesses to disrupt their existing company. And I've ran this program for companies like Verizon, British Airways, I've done it for Google, and where it's a fundamental, like, getting people to step outside their existing business to try and create a new business to kill their existing business. Right? It's a pretty interesting mission. When I say that to people, that I can get executives to leave their company for, in some instances, for 8 weeks and more, don't believe me. The classic behavior is send people to Stanford for 2 days, let them sit in some sort of lectures, they network with a few people, and they come home with the "I'm a Stanford innovator," stick it up on the wall, and then they just keep doing the same things that they always done. With International Airlines Group, who own British Airways, Iberian, Vueling, Aer Lingus, they're the 5th largest airline group in the world. What we did is took 6 of their leadership team out of the company for 8 weeks with the goal of launching 6 new products to transform the airline industry. Right? Like, that was the mission, and each one of the leaders was in essence sort of like a founder, an entrepreneurial founder, where they were going to have to go and build these businesses, these products, these ideas, and bring them to life. For the first week, a lot of them just stuck with what was comfortable to them. They came up with these sort of like little incremental changes to, like, make the onboarding experience a little bit easier, or reduce friction when you go through an airport, or to have better customer information, so they could make offers to them when people were on the plane, something like that. It was all this sort of very, not really radical, not different, not changing their behavior. It was using the same methods they always done. They hadn't learned anything. Every week through this program, the teams have to pitch their ideas back to the executive group for feedback, just like a board of directors. Now, Willie Walsh is the CEO of International Airlines Group. He's basically the turnaround sort of maestro of the airline industry. He turned around Aer Lingus, turned around British Airways, made them massively profitable. He has a really sort of reputation of literally, like, very, very challenging, very direct. Some people actually fear him in many ways. Their fear of what, not pleasing him as well. And the team sort of walk in and they sort of do the pitch of the ideas that they came up with. And really had one of the best sort of responses I've seen in a CEO in a long, long time. He sort of said to the team, "Hey folks, the airline industry, it's all about razor thin margins. We have to be operationally effective, execute perfectly, to optimize the things that we're doing. But I recognize the mission I've given you is not about optimizing. It's actually about growing. It's about finding new opportunities, doing things differently that we've never done before. So our execution muscles aren't what we need to use here. We need to grow these exploratory muscles. And I'm going to have to manage this process different. It's going to be uncomfortable for me because I'm going to have to let go of my classic behaviors about how I manage execution initiatives, like billion-dollar initiatives, in exploratory initiatives. So I just want you all to recognize I need to change myself as a leader, and I want to encourage you to try and do that. Amen.
What a moment. So,
What a moment.
and you need leaders to role model that and make it okay.
How many moments do you have like that in your career where you see true great leadership, and the change in the team's behavior after that meeting was just, it was night and day. They were totally reinventing things. Instead of just trying to make things a little bit better, they would just forget about them. So we built the first ever identity blockchain management system for onboarding people onto airlines. They built systems that would synthesize customer feedback from social media feeds and customer complaints lines into really interesting information that teams could use to actually serve their customers better. We started collaborating with companies like Toro, right, where people could drop their cars off at the airport and rent them out to other people while they were traveling. These were all sort of experiments that airlines would just never dream of doing before. And we just kept doing this. Then we started going to Terminal 7 in JFK Airport, and we took over one of the old abandoned business class lounges. We turned it into a war room for designing all these new experiments about how they could change Terminal 7 in JFK. It was amazing. So you had we had this room which was full of loads of ideas on the walls, but the leaders would actually go outside into the airport and start doing customer development, literally stopping customers and going, hey, where are you flying? What's some of the challenges you're experiencing, getting on the plane, getting off the plane? Why do you choose Terminal 7? Do you ever think about this idea? Everyone in the airport just thinks it's another traveler talking to them. They don't realize that they're talking to the person who's operationally in charge of running the airport. These feedback is unbelievable, but it's shifting the exec's mindset, because they're so used to being locked up in the office, away from customers, dreaming up ideas they think might work, versus having a hunch, a hypothesis, and literally walking outside of the war room, testing it, right? Iterating
right, and being excited to be wrong. And that's the shift too, is being excited to be wrong rather than having the answers.
Spot on.
And you know what that really is too? I see this so much in my own work. It's beginner's mind. It's understanding how to adopt beginner's mind. And what I notice is that some people are very good at that. And there's a bell-shaped curve. People that are true beginners are often pretty good at beginner's mind. They just naturally. And then people with really deep expertise, serial entrepreneurs, this guy you're talking about, certain people, certain founders I've worked with, certain game designers I've worked with. They have big egos, but they can adopt that beginner's mind to their advantage, to innovate. That's what that moment is about. So, do you help people adopt that beginner's mind? How do you do it?
You can imagine when you're an executive in a Fortune 500 company, your whole life is about making decisions, telling people what to do, making the right decision. That's what sometimes is considered great leadership. And yet counterintuitively, in innovation, great leadership is recognizing what assumption is valid or invalid and then course correcting and figuring it out. One of the sort of favorite examples from the early weeks of the exec camp with British Airways, the chief technology officer, the person who's responsible for all technology, had this sort of pet idea that they wanted to implement about radically changing about how airline booking would work, right? And deep expert, 25 years in the field, very few people probably on the planet understand airline booking systems as well as this person. And they were convinced that if we just made a couple of these changes, it would be amazing. So what we did is we say, right, this is a great idea, sounds interesting. Let's test it with a customer, right? So we brought in the first customer and the CTO explained the idea to the customer. How do you think it went?
Maybe the customer didn't like it.
Literally, the customer was like, I've no idea what this I don't understand this idea. What was the exec's response?
Customer's stupid, wrong customer.
You know it, right? This is the wrong customer for my idea. We need to get the right customer. So we brought in another person, right? Similar scenario. Exec pitches this amazing idea for rebooking travel, and the literary customer is like standing there, like, you know, stone faced, going, "Don't get it." But every person we brought in, nobody got it. And this is like 5 reps. And I sit down with the exec and I'm like, "What do you think is going on here?" And he was like, "It's not the customers that suck, it's the idea that sucks." And I haven't been able to hear it, you know? And honestly, that was like such a breakthrough. That exec went on to be, I'd say, one of the best experimenters I've worked with, right? Because it reactivated this curiosity, this beginner's mind, where they're like, it's not about having the answers. I need to have great questions, and I need to validate these assumptions I have. And really what I need is a system to rapidly test these assumptions as quickly as possible and iterate. And they just became a different person, right? They were reactivated in their work again, because, you know, so much of their job was just answer. Someone shows up at their desk with a problem, give me an answer. Like that's sort of the challenge of being an exec, right? That's their day. They don't get time to sort of deeply think about things sometimes, or they don't make time for it. It's hard. But this sort of space gave them agency, really, to be wrong, to
Right.
remember that making mistakes is okay, to do small things. Like, you know, we didn't have the whole company watching this exec test their idea and see if it was going to pass or fail, right? It was a safe, small environment where they could make mistakes. They could be vulnerable, because the 5 other execs on the team were getting stuff invalidated all the time. So it wasn't a competition to be who's always right, who got the A+ in school today. Like all that sort of ego-driven stuff, it started to like dissipate. That's such a powerful work environment to create.
What's so great about that story is it avoids the mistake that most innovation labs set up by large companies make, which is they set the innovation lab up as a fishbowl for the company instead of an embedded unit for customer discovery. And they did that as an embedded unit for customer discovery, plopped in the middle of customers. Structurally, that's a brilliant move, making things far more likely to succeed. So that's a great tip for anyone struggling with how do we optimize our innovation lab, and we're in a large company or even in a small company. With one thing, talk to the right people, because there are some ideas that muggles or normals won't get, but leading edge superfans would. And that's a whole nother conversation that I'm sure we'll have.
Like I said, it's really, really fun to have these debates with you. I leave like I'm activated, I've got energy. So that's my signal. So thank you very much. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, Barry, and take care.
Take care, everyone.
Want results like this for your project or your client's projects? Hop on over to gamethinking.io/programs to learn how you can work with us. We can help you get to product market fit in record time and build products that keep your customers coming back again and again. The link is in the description.